good morning. I wanted to make a vlog. This is the first official vlog of GhostFire Electronics, I guess you would say. And I don't know if there will be more of this content. That is up to you guys. If this is something you would like to see, be sure to let me know. But the vlog you're about to view is actually pretty heavy. Well, it's completely about circuit bending. So it kind of goes over the process and hopefully you learn some things. But we circuit bend a toy, which you will see later on today. The actual video of the normal content. Now, this is in no way trying to end my normal content, but I figured I would do this and hopefully you guys would learn some stuff and possibly I would learn some stuff, so it would be a win-win. So be sure to tell me if this is a type of content that you guys would like to see. Now, I do some other stuff because I know I'm pretty known from my followers on Instagram and stuff to kind of go MIA. Even on YouTube, it's pretty obvious I go MIA once in a while and don't post for like 2 or 3 months. That's usually when I'm pretty busy doing some other stuff within the world, which is also why I'm using this as a kind of way to show you some other stuff that I'm doing so it doesn't really seem like I'm going MIA. I have quite a few different hobbies aside from like GhostFire Electronics and circuit bending and stuff. For instance, I am a very avid gardener as far as like doing, pretty much I grow peppers for the most part. That's the majority of it. But I also do some other vegetables and stuff, and I've been doing that for a while, so if that's something you guys would like to see, I would definitely like to start shooting some videos of that and kind of show you some of that stuff as well. I do foraging in the woods. If you're not familiar with that, it's essentially going out and finding what you can find in the woods, and there's a lot of edible stuff in the woods, so I like to go out and do that as well. So we do quite a bit of hiking, and I do some skateboarding. I do a couple other things. I kind of feel like I have so many hobbies that just pulling them up. Various type of arts as well and stuff, but I would like to kind of get into that as well with these vlogs. So if that's something you guys would really like to see, then definitely let me know. But I hope you enjoy this vlog. Please let me know what you guys think of it and if this is content that you guys would like to see more often. Thanks. Today we're going to be bending this guy right here. It's a little train toy I picked up for I think $1.50, $3. I think I got it on sale. But it does roll. It also has this guy on it, which you know I like putting LEDs in eyes, and it looks like he might be pretty easy to access. So these toys are a bit more complex than your typical board flat toys that just have a button interface, but you tend to have more room with these type of toys, and honestly I just think they're a little more interesting once they are circuit bent. So first thing we are going to do is obviously take these bolts out and then see if we can access the circuit board from there or if we need to go farther in. So we have the bolts out of the bottom, and I actually shot a clip before this trying to open this up, and essentially what was happening was this, which isn't too uncommon because they actually use hot glue quite a bit inside of kids' toys. So I was suspecting that may have been it, and you may have realized, but I did not, that there's some bolts up here. So once I kind of discovered that, you pull on the front of this, and there you go. So all of that is open. So that clip is definitely not making in because that was quite embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. So yeah, even people who have done this for a while make some stupid mistakes, but you know, it's open, it's not broken, so we're good. So what they have here is they have circuit board, and my screwdriver might be too big for this. I have to get I'm gonna get a smaller one. There we go. They just have these bolts holding in the circuit board. This is pretty common. You'll see this as well, especially on these types of toys that are mobile. Pete the Piano, his are like this. There's actually a lot of them that are like that, and we didn't take a picture of these. I don't really care too much that they go back in the correct place, but if you are kind of caring about the buttons going back where they belong, I would definitely recommend taking a picture of it, because when they fall out, oftentimes these aren't selective for specific holes. So what we have here is a typical circuit board. So what you're going to be looking for on these, I found they're either labeled R1 or R2. Once you get inside the circuit boards, usually R1 or R2 is the one that's going to be the speed glitch. And how we're actually going to find this is very, very simplistic. Literally just lick your finger, depending on how dirty your fingers are. But we're just going to wet our fingers. We're going to play a sound. So there you go. So that's R1. And R2 is not controlling anything here. So R1 is going to be your speed glitch. I'm going to give you an up close of that one. See if you can see that. Yeah. So one of these are actually going to be a point, I guess you would call a point of effectiveness. So really only one of these points is the one that's responding. It's either this side or this side. And that's the one that's going to be responding to, essentially what happened is, guess you would say more electric is going through it, as opposed to when you are going to actually hook the ground up, you're going to find one of these points. And I apologize, I can't explain this better. It's actually been quite some time since I've been in college for electronics. And it's one of those things you don't use all the time. It kind of just falls out of your brain, which seems to be what I've done. But we're going to go ahead and solder onto this. The best way to explain this is one of these are going to be responsive to the ground, whereas the other one is not going to be. That's the one we are going to be latching onto in order to actually give it the higher pitch sounds. And let's see here. Alright, so we have these two that are soldered on now, which I'm hoping this wire is going to be long enough. I have longer wire if we need it, but now we're going to locate the ground. So the ground is going to be this black one coming in here. So you have this wire, and then don't be stuck on the color. Not all the time these things are labeled as they're supposed to be, but we're going to go ahead and solder onto this one, because I know for a fact this is ground. Standing up because I've had some trouble with the camera. This is actually the first one. I shouldn't say the first one. I shot an entire vlog before this and decided to scrap it just because I didn't think it was working very well. I didn't like it, and now we're doing this one. But hopefully you guys find it entertaining, and let me know if you guys want to see more of this. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and drop more solder onto this negative right here. Alright. I'm having a lot of trouble at this angle. Okay, there we go. Now we got it. I'm going to strip these two out. So I actually soldered onto the one beside it, which I did notice, but I don't think it's going to affect it too much because they look as if they are connected. So what we're going to do here, so there's the positive, there's the negative. So like I said, this one is actually going to be the responding one. So this one is the one that's in front. So as you'll see, these two do nothing. But you're going to take this middle one and that's going to actually give you the effects that you want. So when you hook a potentiometer onto this, you are actually going to use this for the middle. This is going to be the middle of the potentiometer. These are going to be the two outsides. Now you'll see on most every single one of my instruments, I do a switch, and that's going to allow you to turn the speed effects on and the speed effects off. That's because I actually hook a switch right onto here, and then these two run to the potentiometer, and then I run the switch off, allowing me to actually use it as an on-off switch. So I'm going to go ahead and start hooking this stuff up. For time's sake, I am going to cut the video here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got this installed. So it has a really nice crunchy type of 8-bit sound to it. And some of my advice would be definitely make sure you have the right equipment before you go into it. I didn't know, but I was actually out of 250K potentiometers, and I had to actually pull it off of another circuit bend instrument, which makes more work for me. I tried to roll with a 50K, but that did not work. In case anybody's wondering, I always go with two 50Ks. I know some people kind of switch them up a bit. I really never go wrong with two 50Ks. They're always enough resistance that I get a really good effect from them, and yeah, I usually use those. But we actually had to pull it off of the big cheese. I'm sorry, Igor Amokian. But had to use that, so that makes some more work for me a little bit later on. So I'm going to go ahead and post a diagram here, kind of attempting to explain what happened here. Essentially what we did here was, this is the middle wire. This is running directly to this toggle switch. So you have the point that was affected, if you remember. This point is affected, so we ran it up to the toggle switch, and then we're going to run it out. So the toggle switch essentially just cuts it off. And then you're going to run it to here, which is the middle of this, and then you have the 2 points that this one's affected by on the outside of the potentiometer. So what that's going to do for you is, when you flip this switch to on position, you can now vary between the 2 points, giving you a full spectrum of speed within the instrument, all the way down to stopping, which that's not always going to be the case, but this one is actually a very easy instrument. There are some that you do have to put resistors on because it puts too much amperage through it and the resistor just doesn't hold up, the board will crash. But this one is rather easy, and what I always like to do is I like to hot glue the toggle switch. If I'm sending the instrument to another circuit bender, I won't do this for reasons of when you solder onto any type of hot glue or on something that's been hot glued, you can't really get all that residue off, and it's a very toxic feeling. I mean, it fumes everywhere and it smells really bad. It's not great. Alright, so now we are here. We have this set up, and I will end up hot gluing this as well, but that's after it's in place. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check for LEDs on the same place we're going to pro sound, and that's going to be on the speaker. So we have a couple different options we can actually do here, and I'm sorry if you hear that in the background. It is thundering here. So we have a couple different options. This was going to end up with LEDs either way. So if this doesn't work for us, then we're actually going to hook the LEDs into this, and then they are going to go in this guy's eyes, hopefully. But what we're going to do here is we're going to see that where the speaker wires are. I'm going to see that they are running right here. So that's going to give us our points of contact. So we have the wires kind of over right here. So I'm going to hook this in. So this is probably backwards. Now we're just going to flip this around. There you go. So you've got a pretty midnight blue LED. We're actually going to hook these in parallel with each other. and then we're going to run these up, and then with any luck they're going to go in this guy's eyes, which, you know, I like to do, and midnight blues are rather pretty color to do this with. So I'm going to go ahead and solder 2 wires onto here. I'm going to run them out and we will be right back. Alright, so we went ahead and soldered onto this. I ran them downwards, so as they're off the board quite a bit and you still have the button space. And we have, I know this is going to be the wrong way. It is. Nope, actually we got it that time. Usually it's always the wrong way. But now we have this, and then essentially what we're just going to do here is we're going to go ahead and tie onto one of these. Then I'm not going to solder it yet, and there are reasons why, and I will tell you that here in a second. There's thunder, if you heard that. Okay, so now we're going to hit this again. Okay, so now both of these are going to be working, and that's parallel. So we're going to go ahead and tie this one on this side, because these are going to need to be spaced out a bit. You're just going to tie onto one of each side. And the reason I say tie them on, because I find it a lot easier with the LEDs to actually tie the wires around them. That way you have a lot of play. So when I actually bend this and put the solder on, you're going to have a really good connection, and this is going to work out really well. Now you probably could run these in parallel as well, but, or I'm sorry, you could probably run these in series as well, but I think parallel is going to give us a lot more of a flashy show. And you may not know this, but what we actually just did as well is we're going to use these same wires to actually add a pro sound to this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to connect these in every single way. So all these points are going to get connected together. You want to restart it? So what you're seeing here is me simply running this wire to this side, this wire to this side. So that's going to give you a parallel LED setup, and that's going to also look great in his eyes. So what we're going to do here, since you see that I haven't soldered onto it, I'm actually going to fold one of these over. And this is another thing that I like to do because it does save a little bit of stress in the long run. I'm going to go ahead and fold this, which I need to cut that a little bit more. I did fold that leg a little too long there. So there you go. So that's going to actually crunch in and allow a little more support for this wrap that we did. So one more time. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and solder this real quick, because we are done with this LED. Alright. Okay. So that LED is finished, and you can actually see that it's kind of lit up, which is pretty cool. Alright. So the reason we haven't done this one yet is because we are actually going to be running the Pro Sound directly off this. We could have done this with either LED. So we're going to strip a bit of a longer wire. You definitely want to go longer than having too short of a wire, because then you're going to have some open points, and you know, maybe you put some tape on them and they're not so open anymore. But it's still kind of a pain in the butt, and if things are going to go wrong, it's usually the points that you solder on the inside, I've found. So it's best just to run the wire and keep it in one complete piece. Actually going to go a little bit longer there. So definitely it's better to have more than 2 less, I guess you would say. Okay, so this is going to be the Pro Sound. We are actually going to do this the same exact way. We're going to run it up here. It's going to be a little tougher to do because we do have this other one already. And we're going to fold this. Alright. Now we're just going to kind of scrunch that up. And then we are going to repeat the process on this side now that we have this on here. We're going to go and fold it over. And I am going to go ahead and solder this because we are being a little more rough with these LEDs. So I'm going to go ahead and solder this point, which you could probably see it a little bit better now that I have this light on it. Just waiting for it to heat up anytime now. Alright. So it's looking pretty good. Maybe spread it a bit more. There we go. Then we are going to do the same on this side. Alright, so we have these hooked up. So we have pretty strong bonds right here. And then, see, the LEDs are functioning. And if you remember, this is actually just the other side of the speaker. So this is just an extension out of the speaker. We've run 2 LEDs on it. And then now we are going to run a Pro Sound. How I usually do my Pro Sounds, because they can be a bit funky, is I always keep an amplifier at my house so where I can put it in here. And then I can go in and test how this is going to respond to the amplifier. So we are going to plug it up. So it should be these 2 points right here. Okay, so there we go. And you may not be able to hear it over this sound, but it is actually running through the amplifier. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a similar thing with the LEDs, or that I did with the LEDs, and we are going to feed it through these holes, and then I'm going to wrap it around. Now have all the LEDs hooked up and everything. So what we're doing now is we're just hooking up the Pro Sound, or I'm sorry, not hooking them up, we are actually just screwing them in. Screwing in the Pro Sound, we're going to be screwing in these 2, and then I'm going to be making a pot knob for this, but we are going to go ahead and screw these in. So now we're to the planing stage of this, and this is where it kind of gets tricky with these type of toys that are kind of tiny and then have weird shapes to them. So we have this going on, but remember we still have wheels to put on the sides, so these are going to sit right in here. And I also have this big thing that causes it to spin that we have to fit in there as well. Luckily this doesn't give too much room on the inside, but again we do have to worry about the wheels, which are going to be taking up a majority of this room. And as you can see, there's not a lot of space inside of here. So what I'm going to try to do is, I believe I can fit a toggle switch right here, judging by, let me use these wheels. Judging by the wheel right here, see I have some room, but bear in mind these wheels are a bit larger. There we go. So you see I look like I have some room right here. So we're going to either put the potentiometer there, or we're going to put the toggle switch there. So the goal here is we are going to mount the potentiometer right in here, because it looks like we are going to have enough room. So that's going to be about right here. And then the Pro Sound is going to go in the front right here. So we have enough room where we can actually do the Pro Sound right here. So that is what we are going to do. So the train's all together, and now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I have this really cool bottle cap here, and I have a cork. So I'm actually going to make a potentiometer, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Potentiometer pot knob. So I'm going to show you how I do this. So you can pretty much do this with anything. I actually find all of this stuff. I myself do not drink. So I find all this stuff when we're cleaning up on sides of roads, inside of woods, things of that nature. My dad very often does like four-wheeling at like woods and stuff, and then you can go towards the trash can at some of those events and stuff, and then get a lot of this stuff. I mean, people just throw away, you know, obviously to them as trash, but they make really cool pot knobs. So what you do is we're going to go ahead and hot glue inside of here. I'm going to hot glue all the way around it, which we may have to touch this up here in a second. But I'm just going to let that dry for a second, and at the same time we're just going to touch up the side here. So what we're trying to do is make it pretty flush on the inside, so where it's not sinking down. And the reason we're doing that is we want the most security possible on this pot knob. So you don't want the cap to come off and then there just be a hot glued cork on the top of the pot. That would just look goofy. So we're just going to keep going around here. It looks like that's about it. Trying to dry that out a bit. Okay, so this is dried. As you see, it's not perfectly flush, but we have a good amount of glue inside here that it's not actually moving around. Now I'm going to take a razor blade, And I'm just going to run it across here. And you may want to put it on the ground. This doesn't have to be perfectly even, so don't stress about it too much. But we're just going to cut this with the razor blade. Kind of wiggle it around in there. It's rather difficult because this is a very dull razor blade. I just found this in the drawer and decided I was going to use this for the video. So hopefully you're having an easier time than I am on this. Alright, so there we go. Now we can pry it up. Now we're just going to work on flushing this. Making it pretty flat. And be careful not to cut yourself, for obvious reasons. Alright, there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is right in the center here, we are going to go ahead and drill into it to actually fit the pot knob in. So I do want to show you this real quick. This is actually a little bit smaller than the actual pot knob. But the reason we're doing that is because we want it to actually grip onto it when we put it on. So we're just running this. And a good amount there. So now we have a hole for this. I am going to do that one more time. Try to get a little bit more of that extract out. There we go. Got a little more of the cork extracted, just because you don't want it to go on and not work correctly. Now I'm not going to push this on because I actually want it to go onto this one really well. I am going to put a little bit more hot glue in the back here, just a tiny bit. And that's it. Now we're going to go ahead and put this on. There we go. I'm going to pull this up a bit just because of the way this is. I don't want it rubbing on this red piece right here, so we're going to pull this up a bit. There we go. So now it should already be ready. There we go. Okay. So we are finished with this guy. So everything is looking good, everything is functioning good. And we are finished. So I really hope you guys learned something with this. If you want to see more videos like this, definitely be sure to let me know. Other than that, I will have this other video up tonight, the normal content that I usually post. And yeah, let me know. Be sure to subscribe, like, and just tell me if you'd like to see more of these.
Flawless victory.